Good morning, Mrs. Pippett. Today, I'd like to introduce you to the principal. This is Mrs. Henning, and then I'd like to introduce you to Billy's general ed, his English teacher, and that's Mr. Sturm. And of course, I am Billy's special ed teacher. And so today we're going to learn. We came here to learn about Billy's reading problems and to talk about some kind of interventions that we might be able to do to increase his reading ability. He's had the first test that we do every 9 weeks is the STAR 360 test, and it determines what grade level the students are at, what percentile they're in, and um, also just where we need to start working with them on. After that test, Billy scored a 1.8 on that test, and so that's pretty low for a 7th grade student. So we know we've got somewhere to go. So secondly, we did some easy CBMs with Billy, and we started in the 2nd grade level just because we could try to get some basic ground points of where we need to start with him. And on his first easy CBM, we did 2 tests of sight words, and he got 8 out of 22 and then 16 out of 29 on those tests. And then which shows us that we just need to get a baseline of where he's at. So we know that he's pretty low on sight words as well. We also did the reading passages. We did 2 reading passages. The teacher read one, and Billy, Billy read one by himself. So on the one that Billy read by himself, he got 50% of the comprehension questions correct. On the one that was teacher read and then Billy answered the questions, he got 75% correct. So this is a graph of the one the teacher read and the student read. So as you can see, he did 25% better on the reading being read to as opposed to him reading by himself. So we're thinking that Billy might be an auditory learner, which means that we would be using like text-to-speech for him when it comes to reading tests, or have him pulled out with a para to facilitate his reading better and comprehending better. So on his first reading level, his first reading level, his comprehension, his passage, he did pretty well. As you can see here, he did pretty well on his first reading passage. He only missed, he got 3 incorrect, 2 deletions, and 1 insertion. And so his first reading passage was pretty good, but then we look over at his second reading passage and it is not quite so good. So what we're thinking also is that Billy gets frustrated, and I did learn that as he read the second passage, he had a lot more go-backs where he would stop and he would go back to the question or to the beginning of the sentence and start over again. This affects not only comprehension, but also his fluency, because he's not reading as quickly or as correctly as he needs to, which affects his fluency. So next, on his GORT 5 test, Billy did pretty well. Actually, what happened here was you read a story, and then we're gonna score your rate. We're going to score your accuracy, which is the second line, and then comprehension, which is the third line. So on these, Billy's fluency really is lower than his comprehension in all 3 tests. So this tells us that his comprehension is pretty good when he can get the information out of the text. Also, his accuracy on the first test was fantastic. It was great. He scored a little lower on the second test, but then he came right back on the third test. So I try to encourage the kids to slow down and not worry about their fluency or their accuracy or their fluency as much as their accuracy and their comprehension. That way they get more out of the text. And Billy's really good at that. If I tell him to slow down a little bit or focus, then he usually comes right back and focuses well. So as you can see, when I ask him to do that, which I did on the first and the third test, he does much better on his reading accuracy. All this testing tells us that Billy is in the first percentile of according to his peers. So his peers are here in the middle, these two rows here, and Billy's over here. So we got a long way to go to get Billy where he needs to be. So we're going to have to think about some we're going to have to think about some things that we can do with Billy. So here's his 6 CBMs that we gave him. And for these, we just did one a week so that we could try to get his reading fluency and his comprehension up just a little bit. So here's his baseline, or his aim line. His aim line is 39 to 49 words within this 6 weeks. So basically he started at 34. So he went down on the second test and he came up on the third test. This is his baseline. So basically his baseline tells us that with a little bit of work we can get here. So this is where we need to be, and this is where we are currently. So in order to get there, we are doing MTSS, we're doing lots of things to help him, we're pulling him out and reading with him. Here are the scores for his 6-week CBMs, or curriculum-based measurements that we did. So as you can see, he started at like 29 under his sight words, and then his passages, he was at a 44. The second week he went down, which is interesting because he told me that he didn't sleep very well during this week, because every week I would ask him how he was doing, what had happened over the weekend, because I took these tests on Monday and I just wanted to make sure that we were consistent. But he said he didn't sleep very well this week, and so it was interesting to see that because of lack of sleep, his scores went down a little bit. Otherwise, they tended to rise, except for his sight words, and they're not coming along as quickly as we would like to have them come along. So I just want to tell you that I think Billy is a great kid. I really like Billy. I think he's an auditory learner, which is great because there are so many programs out there now to help kids that learn auditorily. He is very pleasant to work with. Anytime I ask him to do a test for me, he will do so. He always complies with requests. He's usually a happy kid. Every once in a while, he'll say something about, oh, brother and I aren't getting along or something like that. But pretty much overall, he's really great to work with. He wants to help you do things. He wants to help you in any way that he can. He's just really a great kid. Weaknesses that he has, of course, his reading is really low, and we need to work on sight words. His sight words are just really low. He wants to sleep in class. He has such a hard time staying awake. We have to have somebody on him quite a bit. We have pretty much a one-on-one para with him some of the time just to keep him awake, especially during the first part of the day. In the afternoon, he tends to do better, but in the morning, he's a little bit tired. So his handwriting needs a lot of work too. He just doesn't have the fine motor skills that most of the kids in his class and his grade level do right now. So we're going to have to work on that as well. So two of his we're discussing his short-term goals, and I think that really we need to focus on reading before we focus on anything else, just to get him a little bit higher where he can feel a little bit of success and have some success and feel confident in himself. So two of his short-term goals that we've written up are, when given a reading passage, Billy will increase his comprehension from 5 out of 10 correct to 6 out of 10 correct over the next 3 weeks. So as you can see with this, I think we can get there because over this 6 weeks, we pretty much did that. But, we're going to have to work consistently. Every week we're going to be doing this. And so that's going to help his comprehension quite a bit. His second short-term goal is going to be when given a second grade sight word list, Billy will increase the number of correct words that he orally presents from a list of 30 words. Billy will orally read 90%, or I'm sorry, when given second grade sight word list, Billy will increase the number of correct from 16 out of 30 to 20 out of 30 over the next 3 weeks. And as you can see, we kind of got there. He did 29 to begin with, and then at the end, he was at 41. But this, as you can see, he's not consistent with that. So we're going to have to work on consistency a little bit with him. Finally, his 2 long-term goals, when given a reading passage of 2.0 grade level, Billy will read and answer comprehension questions with 80% or higher by the next IEP date. So by the next time that he has an IEP, which will be next September, his reading comprehension in second grade will go up to 80% overall. And as well, when given a second grade sight word list of 30 words, Billy will orally read 90% within 1 minute by the next IEP date, again in September. So we're trying to increase both of these, and we're going to be working really hard on them all year long, just so we can get him where he needs to be. So what I want you guys to do at home would be a great benefit to Billy, would be to read to him for every 10 minutes, or just sit him down and read for 10 minutes or so. And also it would be good to go over sight words. So I'm going to send home a paper I'm going to send home reading material. I'm going to send home a sight word list. And if he could spend 10 minutes going over both of those once a night, that would be fantastic. It would sure help him out, and he would just benefit greatly from that. And with your help, we could sure get where we need to be with our 2 long-term goals. And we're going to work on our short-term goals through MTSS and just reading aloud on a daily basis with all of his core classes. So are there any questions that you have? Or is there anything that you can think of that would help Billy with his reading? Okay. Well, I really appreciate you coming in today. And as you can see, we have a great team here that's going to be working with Billy. And I know Mr. Sturm and Mrs. Henning and I are all just super excited to get Billy where he needs to be, and can't wait to get started with him. So thanks so much for coming in. We'll see you next time.